Good afternoon, guys. So 2 summers ago in the north of Ibiza, I had the opportunity to meet and hang out with a group of indigenous people from the Yawanawa tribe in the Brazilian Amazon. I got to experience a window into their rich culture. I got to experience their amazing songs, and I was inspired by their relationship with plants and the natural world. During my stay in Ibiza, I also came across a superfruit called acai one day at breakfast. I found this superfruit quite intriguing because it was both healthy, delicious, and energizing all in one. It's basically a natural medicine that tastes freaking amazing. So while I was in Ibiza 2 summers ago, it became part of my daily ritual. But it was also a very expensive ritual. My mom was like, "You're gonna have to find a job, kid. You think this acai grows on trees or something?" And so this question sparked an idea in my mind. Since acai does grow on palm trees in a tropical climate, I wonder if I could grow it here in Bali. And so then I did some research, and I found out that not only is it possible, but people are already growing it here. But nonetheless, I really wanted to go straight to its source in the Amazon and learn there from the locals how they grow it, harvest it, and incorporate it into their daily lifestyles and meals. So I presented a very ambitious grant proposal to the Green Projects Hub here at Green School about funding my round-trip flight to Brazil so I could learn about acai and maybe go hang out with my Yawanawa friends again. And of course they said no. But during that presentation, I met my new mentor, a Brazilian woman named Carol who knows a lot about agriculture and growing acai. So Carol and I got into a conversation after my presentation about my project, and then she started telling me about this concept called syntropic farming. It's basically a method of regenerative agriculture where one mimics the natural succession of a forest and reproduces it by growing various fruits and vegetables that are suitable for the climate in the specific area in order to increase biodiversity in the land. So the aim of the game in this method is to produce enough biomass in the early stages of these gardens so that it can later on sustain itself and eventually develop into a food forest. Later, I found out through research that this concept was developed by a Swiss farmer in the 70s named Ernst Kutsch, who studied genetics in Switzerland and taught about sustainable agriculture in Nicaragua in the 70s. And so he went on to develop and coin the term syntropic agriculture. And with the knowledge that this guy gained from genetics and agroforestry, he moved to a 500-hectare plot of land in Bahia, Brazil, that was previously completely deforested. So there he began to apply his technique of syntropic agriculture, and for 1 year he worked sun up to sun down to plant 500 hectares worth of fruits and vegetables. And today, these 500 hectares in Bahia are a food forest mecca. Also, 17 streams of fresh water have emerged on his land since his work. And the reason being behind these fresh water streams accumulating and emerging is because that once enough biomass is built up in the soil that falls from the trees, once they're old enough, or it has to be applied extra, but once enough biomass is gathered up, the water falls into the biomass, and then it over time starts to accumulate and get really wet, and then the water needs to go somewhere, so it forms into a river. This is generally how rivers are formed. Ernst claims that one must have a deep respect and understanding of nature to produce such results. So another project was completed in 2017 by a cosmetics company called Natura Brazil, who hired a bunch of researchers and farmers to test out Ernst Kutsch's syntropic agriculture concept to reforest 18 hectares of deforested land in the Amazon through growing crops that are on high demand in Brazil, like palm oil trees, acai, and cacao. And yes, you heard me correctly, they planted palm oil trees. Now, why would they do that? Imagine if all the palm oil in Indonesia was grown in food forests instead of monocultural plantations where an entire forest is cleared just to make way for this one crop. So this Brazilian company incorporated their palm oil into a syntropic farm or food forest concept where the palm oil crops coexisted with the rest of the plants. And so the palm oil went to the cosmetics company, which was grown very sustainably, of course, without any pesticides or poisons. And the other crops like acai and cacao went to the farmers. So after doing this research and learning how this system of syntropic agriculture can potentially fix so many of the problems that we as humans have created for this earth and on this earth, I decided I want to learn how to create my own syntropic garden. So Carol passed me the contact of an agroforestry and permaculture expert named Krishna to get the foundation I needed. And during that 3-day course I took with Krishna, I learned some pretty beneficial things. I learned about the natural succession of a forest, so how the soil makes way for grass roots, to bushes, to pioneer trees, to the big maha trees we see in a forest. I also learned how the soil makes way for, I learned about the importance of biomass and the importance of mulching in a garden. So that in order for plants to grow, they need to be constantly fed nutrients. So that means, like, for instance, leaves and banana tree trunks. So when the garden has enough biomass, of course, then this is how over time it starts to grow enough to produce its own and then develop into a food forest. About a week after my course with Krishna, I drove up to the mountains close to Batucaru at 9 a.m. on a Saturday to go meet my friend Sanctu, who grows acai up in the mountains in a food forest with about 100 other amazing fruits and vegetables. So I got up there and we went on a tour of his amazing garden where I got to taste test a lot of his fresh produce. And at the end, he harvested his acai and I helped him depulp his acai berries in a 100-year-old Balinese stone bowl his grandma made. The legend then provided me with a big cup of acai seeds, which I was very grateful for. So I let my seeds germinate for about a month, and then it was time to acquire the other species of seeds for my garden and find a piece of land to grow on. The rest of the seeds I got from a local pasar close to Green School, or a local market, with funding from none other than the Green Projects Hub. Big thank you to them. And then I talked to Pak Kade Antara, the gardening boss here at Green School, if he would be so kind to give me a piece of land to work on. So he hooked me up with 100 square meters, just right around the corner from the Crystal here at Green School. So finally it was time to get my hands in some soil and begin work in the garden. So on a Saturday at about 9 a.m., I met up with Carol, Pat Bono, my dad, Ibu Harriet, Yude, and my good friend Ryan. And so we all got to work clearing the 100 square meter space, taking out all the weeds and cutting up all the biomass and getting it ready on the side. And then later that day, I began covering the whole space in biomass. And on the last day, I had help from these two legends. Sorry, that's us cutting up biomass right there. And then these two legends also assisted me extremely much. Two local gardeners from the school, hard workers. So overall, it took about 4 days of serious work to mulch the whole space and get the garden ready to be planted with seeds. And for the end result of my garden, I planted banana, lettuce, cassava, turmeric, spinach, basil, tomato, mulberry, and of course, acai. Once I graduate, I won't be able to tend to the garden as much, so I will hand it over to Pat Bono, who knows how to maintain it very well. And then when I come back after the summer, I will come check on it, of course, and do as much work as I can to help keep it going and keep it healthy. And all of the produce from this garden will go to the kitchen here at Green School. And For the kids that are still at Green School in the next 7 years, they will get to try fresh acai. Straight from the garden. So learning how to create and maintain this garden while balancing school and life outside of school has been an epic ride. Always learning from the little kerfluffles on the way. And taking care of this garden on weekends and after school has been a big test of my stamina and overall consistency. So I'm proud to say that although this garden is still a long ways away from becoming a food forest, it's a solid step in the direction of my understanding of regenerative agriculture and how we can fight climate change through this method or system. For me, syntropic agriculture is the ultimate method in which we can go straight to the source of life, straight to the soil, and grow trees that can sequester carbon, hold and store water, increase biodiversity, and grow fresh fruits and vegetables to nourish ourselves, overall contributing to a future where we can substantially reduce our carbon footprint and take better care of the planet. Thank you.